It's a banner year for spring Chinook salmon. Hatcheries are overflowing with adult fish returning to spawn. What does this mean for the future of Idaho's salmon?
This is a male.
The summer of '97 treated Idahoans to a sight that they haven't enjoyed in 35 years. Large numbers of spring Chinook salmon returning home. Hi, I'm Wayne Walker. Tonight, Incredible Idaho looks at what this year's salmon run meant to anglers and to Idaho's anadromous fishery. Fish on! Fishermen crowded banks along the Little Salmon, South Fork, and the Locksaw rivers for a chance to hook a salmon. Many anglers were left groping for words to describe the experience of landing one of these river legends.
Well, it feels like you got a horse trying to pull away when you're putting it in a trailer. Just really pull you hard. You got to put your drag right to zero and just hang on for all you're worth. They get out of the hole and they're gone.
This summer, more hatchery salmon return than biologists need for spawning. The extra fish were left in the river, and for the first time in 18 years, anglers threw out their lines to catch salmon in Idaho.
It was wonderful. Made my heart pound.
If fishermen caught a wild salmon, they'd let it go, but they could keep hatchery salmon. And for the lucky fish that slipped by those hundreds of fishermen, they headed to hatcheries to spawn and die.
That's female. That's a male.
Yeah, that's a female.
At Red River, more than 500 fish returned home to the waiting nets of fishery biologists like Scott Patterson.
He's not ready yet. For right now, we're separating the males from the females. The males, if you keep them with the females, a lot of times you'll get the females to spawn prematurely before we actually have a chance to take them artificially, and that's not a good thing.
Male.
Okay, this one's been scarred. This is a female. She's nice and plump. You can actually almost visualize the eggs right in through here. She's had a lot of trauma coming up probably as a juvenile fish. You can actually see by the body scars that they have what kind of turmoil that they've gone through to make it back to the hatchery. A lot of times you'll see a gill net scar on them. You might see a seal scar where when they were little they were actually almost eaten by another fish, or a fisherman's wound on them. You can see nitrogen blisters on the head. So a lot of times you catch a fish, you can tell that he's had a kind of a tough time for the last few months, and you can kind of tell where he's been.
Believe it or not, these salmon have been lucky. When they were young fish, they were released and headed to the ocean in the spring of 1995.
This year was a unique year. As far as the out-migrations in 95 were good. We had a good water year. The rivers flowed strong through Idaho, and they had a good flush to the ocean. And actually, the ocean conditions were good in 95 and 96 and 97, so there was abundance amount of food in the Pacific Ocean. The water conditions were good again this year. The fish came back.
The number of smolts to reach the ocean is critical because it directly affects how many adults will return to spawn. And even though this was a good year for Chinook salmon, the future is bleak.
The problems that cause declines are still there. We really haven't fixed any problems. We've just got Mother Nature to work on our side for a while.
The biggest problem is it takes smolts 3 times as long to reach the ocean than it did 60 years ago. Beginning in 1938, 8 dams were built between Idaho and the ocean. Now, a slow-moving river, electric turbines, and predators kill 70 to 90% of the young salmon before they reach the ocean.
And so when you have conditions where water is at a premium, and people want to use it for irrigation, people want to use it for recreation, people want to use it to produce electricity, and the fish, sometimes they don't always get their fair share of water that they need to make it to the ocean. And so right now things are looking good, or looking up, but the problem's far from being fixed.
Once biologists find all the females ready to spawn, they harvest the eggs and fertilize them.
You can really see how the eggs have dropped down, and when I squeeze, how punchy it is. Those eggs are just all ready to come. When I lift her, yeah, she'll be ready.
What are you doing there now?
We're gonna thump her in the head and cut her and take her eggs.
Today, biologists spawned 4 ripe females, harvesting 20,000 eggs. They are just the beginning of a new generation.
My hope for this run is The 3 satellites that we run, Crooked River, Red River, and Powell, is that we'll have 4 million green eggs that will produce 3.2 to 3.5 million smolts to be released in 1999.
But Patterson's high hopes are limited to hatchery fish because the number of wild salmon returning this year is much smaller. The survival of this generation of hatchery and wild salmon depends on a quick trip to the ocean in 1999.
The biggest key will have strong water flows in 1999, that the fish will actually make it through the clear water in the Snake River to the Columbia and out to the ocean. A good water year, a good downstream passage year of 1999 will be the key to getting good fish, a lot of fish back in the year 2001.
This year's fishing bonanza is a reminder of what could be in the year 2001, or what Idaho could lose forever.
What you see out here isn't all that great. We have to do some things that are more than just kind of dabbling.
Instinct drives spring Chinook salmon to return to the stream where they began their lives. They swim 500 to 800 miles upriver to reach their home high in Idaho's mountains. In one mountain meadow, a special homecoming is being prepared. Wildlife groups and local organizations are recreating the perfect stream for spawning salmon. Early morning fog clings to the Red River meadow. Elk calve here in the spring. Deer often browse along the meadow's edge, and for the salmon who swim up the Columbia, the Snake, and the Clearwater rivers, this meadow is home. But today, the stream is hazardous to both adult salmon and their offspring. The water in this wide, shallow stream is too warm for the fish, and the pools and riffles used by young salmon have almost disappeared. Idaho Fish and Game manages 300 acres of the meadow as a wildlife management area. And here, a bold experiment is underway.
And for the last 80 years, that's what man did to create the environment we have right now, where there's not any riparian, there's not very many fish. And so in that short time period, man did a lot of damage to this meadow system. And here we are, we're coming out, and in 6 weeks every summer for 3 years, we're trying to put it all back to the way it was 80 years ago.
For the last 2 summers, construction crews have carved big new river bends in the meadow. They've also restored old meanders where the river used to flow.
6 inches. Oh, too far.
Tom Bumstead
Right there.
directs the drag lines and dozers as they reshape the river.
What you see out here isn't all that great. And to get to something that will benefit all of those creatures plus the riparian ecosystem, we just can't go out here and play around. You know, we have to get serious and move a serious amount of dirt.
Once the new and old river bends are ready for water, drag lines carefully maneuver cement barriers into place to divert the river.
Right there. Problem that we've had every time we've tried to divert water into a channel like what we did today was that the existing channel is in size. It's down. And so in order to put water into a historic channel or the channel we want to put it into, we have to bring it back up. We building up enough head to get water to flow through there? What we'll accomplish for these 2 pieces, this big giant bend and this historic channel, is that we'll essentially lengthen the stream channel. So we're going to essentially lengthen the stream channel by about 4 times. We're going to decrease the gradient. So we're going to increase the pool habitat that is very typical of a meadows type stream.
First of all, we want to stop erosion of any kind. So we're creating ground covers from rushes and sedges and those kind of plants to stop any sort of erosion that we may have created with construction. Secondly, we're creating fish habitat. So we're creating bank overhang with willows and other plants such as that. And then we're also creating shade with the alder and things that we've planted along here. And thirdly, we're creating wildlife habitat. We're providing browse for elk and deer. And when you turn around at the end of the day and you look back, you can see you made a difference. So.
But these water-loving plants face an uphill battle. Over the last 80 years, the water table has dropped 3 feet. This leaves many plants high and dry by midsummer. To help raise the water table, crews put in a series of small rock dams like this one that back the water up and slow it down.
And that will support the willows that we
Jim
planted.
White
Like
and
the
Steve
willows
Bauer
are
inspect
taking off
one
really well
that
right
was
now.
built last summer.
And this raises the stream level about a foot from here to the next one.
Yep, so we've raised the water level already about a foot.
There's a frog.
The stream banks are really nice and wet, which is good for, August 4th or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Look at this, willows everywhere.
Yeah, these are doing great.
Wow! While Jim and Steve are praising last summer's work, Tom's diversion downstream has run into trouble.
We got some major washing problems, but I don't want to fill it too much faster. What happened was, as the water came up and it started washing underneath it, everything started settling. And so when it settles, then it goes over the top, and then it rolls over, and it erodes downstream, and things roll into place, and you just have all kinds of fun time.
The drag lines come to the rescue, dropping huge boulders behind the diversion to hold it in place. Neighbors up and down the river have watched the restoration project. Some are skeptical.
To me, it's kind of an experiment. We'll see whether it works. I would like to see it work, but I'm not sure yet that it's going to.
Did they tell you anything about these exclosures?
No, I just know about them. I mean, that's just to see how the grass grows in there without anything grazing on it. Yeah.
Jim White is eager to show neighbors how the project is working. His goal is not just to create the perfect stream for salmon, but for local residents to have a say in it.
Hopefully something will get going.
They're planting 20 to 25,000 seedlings out here just this year. So what we did was the money that Bonneville Power is giving to the project, they give that to Idaho County Soil and Water Conservation District. One of the things that the district does that they do really well, and is one of their big goals, is that they look out for the little people. They look out for the adjacent landowners and the landowners downstream. They make sure that we as agencies are looking out for that. When the money is going through them, they have a big say in it.
The bold experiment for the Red River Meadow seems to be working, but people will always ask if the time and money spent here was worth it.
My 5-year-old came down here with me last year and saw his first salmon, heard his first elk bugle, and it's important to me that we make these things work, that we don't walk away from a system like this and let our salmon go. And I know that's something he'll remember forever. And if it's here when he's my age, then it's a success.
Where are you going?
In the water.
Good idea. I'm glad you thought of that. I'll go down here.
Where are you going?
I'll go down here and try it.
For Leroy Hyatt and Bob Clark, a perfect day is a day spent fishing on the Locksaw River. At least once every summer, the two fishermen get together for some good humor and hopefully some good fishing. We join these two friends just as they finish breakfast, ready to test their skills at catching Idaho's native West Slope cutthroat.
You got to kind of respect your elders just a little bit here, Leroy.
Well, I do a little.
Might. You get retired, Leroy, then every day is weekday. Every day is a weekend,
Retired, yes, I
Yeah,
do.
boy, I'm really enjoying this. I don't have to worry about going to work tomorrow or nothing like you do.
Yeah, I know.
don't even set your alarm clock anymore, I'll bet, do you?
No, matter of fact, I don't. All I gotta do is worry about when I'm going fishing next.
I see.
Well, like I say, there's lots of things to do when you go fly fishing besides just catch fish.
That's true. That's
like
true.
tell a few lies. I mean, no, fly fishermen don't tell lies. They just stretch the truth a little bit.
Fly fishing is much more than a weekend sport for these two. Their time on and off the river revolves around fishing. Bob Clark made the bamboo rods they are using today. Leroy Hyatt taught Bob how to tie flies.
Where are you going?
In the water.
Good idea. I'm glad you thought of that. I'll go down here.
Where are you going?
I'll go down here and try it.
All right.
The Lochsaw is one of their favorite places to fish. It's a beautiful river and a good place to catch West Slope cutthroat.
The true West Slope, of which it's here on the Lochsaw and on Kelly Creek, will migrate about 75 miles one way each year. They'll go to where the feed and water temperature are more conducive to what they need at that time of year. Fish have to take a food, if it looks natural to them at all, they have to take it. Otherwise, they may not see another meal for a while, especially as sporadic as the hatches have been this year. So they are opportunistic. And if it looks like it's something alive, something somewhat natural, they'll take it. Normally, famous last words.
Well, by golly, that was the third time in a row that guy come up there at that. He's not gonna do her again. Must have got stung that time.
Fish on. This small little cutthroat, pretty little fish. When you can take a fly you've tied yourself and fool the fish, that's what it's all about. As clear as the water is and as low as it is, the fish may be a little spooky. So I lengthened and lightened the leader.
Hey, Leroy, give me that can of worms you got, will you?
Okay. It'll cost you.
Why do I catch and release? Well, I think the fish are awfully beautiful, and the fish are getting quite scarce. And I really don't like to kill these fish. Whether I'm fishing in the catch and release area like we are now, or whether we're down below in the catch and keep area.
Well, I popped off my last orange stimulator. Boy, I turned over a big fish. He came up 3 times.
Leroy always brings a good supply of flies, but sometimes the promise of a big fish pushes him to improvise. Leroy first learned to tie flies as a young boy. 25 years later, his passion and expertise has evolved into the television show Fly Tying, the Angler's Art.
Well, let's get started. Show us the Griffith's gnat.
Okay, the Griffith gnat. If you can tie your shoes, you can tie flies. I'm serious. I have taught loggers to tie flies that have a little finger and a thumb, and they can still tie all the same knots. And it makes it float very well.
Oh, yeah.
The sport's been good to me. If I can give something back to the sport by showing somebody how to tie a fly on TV, so be it.
Now that's a stimulator, Leroy?
Mm-hmm. That's a stimulator. You know, it could imitate a lot of things. It could imitate a hopper. It's got a lot of good color. It could imitate a stonefly. And you know what? I haven't seen a whole lot of stonefly hush yet today.
Well, I've seen a few down here.
Yeah, but a lot.
Once again, Leroy and Bob cast their lines to try and lure that big cutthroat out with their handmade bamboo rods and flies.
Well, Leroy, this has been a good day.
It has been a good day.
Even if we haven't caught a lot of fish.
Well, we've had fun trying.
Oh, you bet we have.
I mean, you've had the pleasure of my company. What else could you ask for?
Well, yeah. Right there, it ought to be.
What do you got on?
I got on a red humpy.
Looks like a goat exploded.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate your sympathy.
Or you've been digging in your wife's vacuum cleaner, and maybe that's what you've been.
Put on that stimulator and show me something here, Leroy.
Oh, I don't know how to tie the knot.
We close our show tonight with a creature feature, profiling Idaho's largest animal, the magnificent moose. These long-legged and ungainly-looking creatures have developed a reputation of being a petulant bully, but they are solitary creatures who are more curious than they are bad-tempered. However, mothers are very protective of their young. The dense black coat of an adult moose is a heavy burden in the summer. They seek out the dark woods and boggy bottoms to escape both the heat and the bugs. But during the winter, the brittle, hollow hairs of their coat provide excellent insulation against the cold. Moose antlers draw a lot of attention. Bulls shed their antlers in the winter, only to start growing a new set right away. And they are extremely careful while their antlers are still growing. If they seriously damage the velvet, they run the risk of bleeding to death. Few can match the power and majesty of a big bull moose. His strength and somber dignity remains a magnificent symbol of Idaho's wild places.